IoT platform understands and uses. I just turned on my screen recording so that I can provide that for persons who are still having network issues while we move on. And it also provides security and authentication for devices. So it's a central point or a central place where we can provide security and authentication. Okay. It also collects, visualizes, analyzes data. I've talked about this like a couple of times. And then you can integrate with other web services. Let me give you a typical example. That I have a humidity sensor or a temperature sensor. Does not mean I want my temperature sensor to be giving me the weather conditions. So, but using my API, using my own sensor, using my cloud platform, I can then get information from other services like weather.com. So weather.com can provide me the status of the weather, and then I integrate it with the information that my sensor is bringing for me, and that makes for good analysis. Okay, that's what we're referring to. That's what the platform will help you achieve. Then moving on. Okay, somebody said the ambulance and the busy road. That you didn't get that part. Okay, I was giving an example how multiple systems that are not related will not give you the power of IoT compared to when they are related. For example, you have the traffic system that when the traffic gets intelligent, knowing when to let a particular road pass more than the other one, probably because there's no car on the other road. So we'll get to a T junction and there's no car on road A, but there are so many cars on road B. Instead of just flashing the yellow, red, blue, or yellow, red, green, it understands that there are more cars on this side, so it gives them more green than the other side. Now, that one, if we do IoT there, it means there will be a user interface where we can then use that user interface to control it, right? And now I talked about the emergency system. Now, how does the person driving the ambulance know the best road to follow when all that's available is the traffic app? That's where the cloud platform comes in. Now, when the cloud platform is the one receiving that traffic data, it gets to understand that all the traffics in the different areas, and then it can help you plot the best route to get to your destination. That's the power of having a central platform where everybody can aggregate, can come, and the data can be analyzed. Okay, so Muyudin, have you gotten that part now? Have you been able to understand the part? Okay, good, very good. Okay, so it is not just the functions, but when to consider an IoT platform. Okay, so when you're doing something small, it is not every time you consider such a big ecosystem. Remember, we talked about some of the reasons why you have to worry. You have to talk about the latency. We talked about latency. We talked about security. We talked about crashes. So when do you consider using an IoT platform? Okay, so the major reason why we implement IoT platform using the cloud platform is because no one person can know it all. That you know how to manipulate the temperature sensor very well does not mean when the proximity sensor comes, you understand the language and you can manipulate. Does not mean when the vibration sensor comes, does not mean when the humidity sensor comes. So because you don't have all that expertise, sometimes you work with relative domain where everything is existing, where some things have already been explained. Okay, so the IoT platform exists to help businesses overcome that kind of technical challenge without the need to have an in-house know-it-all kind of guy. Okay, that you have an IT guy does not mean only him knows how to design a page, build a website, program Arduino boards, and so on and so forth. So the IoT platform will enable you have that kind of free space where everything can be achieved. Now, however, there are trade-offs. There are things that can help you come to that conclusion, because the IoT platform will save you time of learning those things and trying to figure them out. It will cost you money. Okay, So that's the trade-off now. It saves you time, it costs you money on the long run. But the more you get conversant with the time, the more you can configure things by yourself, the lesser you spend for it. Of course, we know that there's no capital expenditure for cloud, but as the time goes on, that cost as well becomes a thing. Okay, so the IoT platforms are inexpensive upfront at the beginning, but at the same time, the less you spend, the more work you will have to do, even on that IoT platform. For example, somebody who's using software as a service and someone who's using infrastructure as a service are two different things. The person who's using infrastructure as a service might end up saving more than the person who's using software as a service, because he's been able to configure his own, know when to turn it off, know when to turn it on, and so on and so forth. So those are the trade-offs that I'm talking about. Okay, moving on. Choosing an IoT platform. Enterprise platforms versus consumer platforms. The IoT platforms are either enterprise platforms where big work is done, or consumer. So the question is, which one do you need? Which one do you work with? Okay, the difference between them is that the enterprise applications or enterprise platforms are for high-end services like oil and gas companies, manufacturing companies, and so on. While the consumer side of it is like the smart home appliances, those wearables like the wristwatch, and so on and so forth. Those are consumer devices or consumer platforms. So you get to be the one to decide which one suits you. If you're a business person and you want the high end, then you can go for the enterprise. But if it's just the consumer end you're looking at, then you can go for the consumer side of things. Okay, so common things you look out for, common elements that are critical when choosing the best platform. The scalability. Can it go up at any time? Can it go down when you want to? In several years' time, would the platform be still there, or the person would have closed down? That's one big thing that you have to think about. Okay, aside that, is it flexible? Is it stable? Okay, is the platform, does it even support the kind of future you want to have? Their previous work, the things they've been doing, does it actually speak for them? So those are the things you have to think about. Apart from these three, there are more, like the pricing. Okay, see, look at it there. How does the platform provide security? How do they handle price? Time to market. If I deploy my device now, how long will it take before it hits the market? Data analysis and data ownership. What's their policy on data analysis? How much data can they analyze? And how much time would they spend analyzing that particular data? So all of this is what you consider. People who choose cloud platforms will tell you that they've always been confused between the very popular platforms like AWS and Azure, which one to choose. But when you put these things into consideration, that's how you get to decide, or that's how you can figure out the best one for you. And then API, your application programming interface. It's like a half-made job, already made work that you can integrate into your own system. Here it says it's a connection between computers or between computer programs. It is a type of software interface offering you service. I just used that weather example. So if I want my software, if I want my interface to show the weather, do I have to create a sensor that reads the weather, or just use the API for weather.com to provide that information? All of this is the importance of using that kind of ecosystem, the cloud platform. But at least we understand what the API is talking about. Okay, it means that users of your system don't need to leave your system to use another organization's application. For example, I have let's say I have a light, a smart light, and then other information I need to provide on that same user interface could simply be maybe temperature, or the weather, or maybe a video feed. Now, do I have to create another kind of sensor just to bring that data in? No. You can use stuffs like APIs to call information from a different place. Okay, so your wearable device, when someone is using your software, someone is connected to your system, do they have to leave that system just to access information that they want somewhere else? You have to be able to provide an all-encompassing system so that once they come in, they stay. They don't have to go somewhere else before they can get things done, or before they can get information. Okay, that's why you see that most of those watches, before now, they used to be monochromic, that they just give you one information. But now you see a watch giving you the number of steps you have taken. It's telling you your body temperature. It's telling you the heat around. It's giving you opportunity to even make a call. All of these are APIs that are attached that provides that information. Okay, the last part of what we're looking at is data analytics. Having to analyze the data that's been aggregated. And two things come into mind when we talk about data analysis. There's data analytics, and then there's this machine learning. I'll explain the two of them. Okay, now your data analysis is more or less on the reactive side. Okay, you collect data from the sensors, and then you analyze that data based on what the sensor has collected. But then the machine learning side of it is more or less a high level that takes large amount of data and generates some kind of future prediction as well. Okay, so let me give you a typical example. I want to know how much water is in my soil, so I put a sensor on the soil, and the sensor tells me how much water is in the soil, and then I create an irrigation system that when the water is low, water the ground. The irrigation will water the ground. Okay, but then it stops there. My data analysis stops there. But machine learning should be able to tell you that because the reading in the morning is different from the reading in the afternoon, different from the reading in the night, I should be able to understand that once it's morning, the reading is usually around this range. In the afternoon, it's around this range. So the platform learns how those data is collected and can predict what it will be tomorrow. Okay, that's what your machine learning is about. So it doesn't just pick data, analyze it, and use it. It helps you do some kind of predicting. That's what your machine learning is all about. So when machine learning is valuable, that's what we'll look at right now. Data models, the one that you just collect data and analyze, is traditional. Okay, so when IoT and the current fast changing environment comes in, data is usually not so structured. So we're looking at an environment or an ecosystem where dozens of data come in at different times, and the different sensors are churning in data, bringing out data, and at the end of the day, your analysis is just based on what should I do, reactive. But machine learning does I assess, analyze, and then predict what the next data might be. And when the next data comes, I would match it with my prediction and see how it works and react based on that. Okay, so that's what your machine learning is all about. Okay, so there's a particular example that I know Google used. Google had to use machine learning to analyze 120 variables affecting their cooling system. That's their fans, their pump, the windows, and so on and so forth, in order to predict how much energy they should spend. And just that little analysis saved them hundreds of millions of dollars. That's machine learning. So you move from a place of just analyzing regular data, traditional data, to modeling data, and the system learns from it and takes action without having to rely on the cloud platform to help it aggregate and do those things. So if my sensors over 6 months has been telling me that by 12 noon in the afternoon, the water in the soil has reduced, It doesn't need the irrigation system doesn't need the sensor to tell it again. When it gets to 12 noon, it gets ready and it does the watering. Okay, while the sensor still captures the reading and sends to the cloud platform. Now that's machine learning it and moving forward. That's what this slide is talking about. It's valuable when you know what you want, but you don't know the important input variables to make that decision. You want to get to the market, you want people to buy your product, but you don't actually know how to get there. That's what machine learning is. So sampling opinions from different places, and then the machine itself learns how those opinions come in. That's how to improve businesses. Okay. In addition, machine learning is also valuable for accurately predicting future events. I've talked about this as well. Application of the machine learning in IoT, saving of cost. This is the one I was talking about. Google, or this is for Gold Corp. Gold Corp using machine learning to save themselves over $2 million per day. Okay, it's a company that uses immense vehicle to haul away materials, and they've been able to understand when the cars will break down, and then when the car maintenance needs to be done, and in such doing they save themselves $2 million per day. You can imagine that kind of savings. Okay, so the question here says Ali is asking, what's the secret behind the prediction? Is it based on the result of what happened on daily basis? Oh yes, it's part of it. Now think of it like this. How do you know that the color you see, the color called blue, is blue? The color called blue has been confirmed to be blue because so many persons said it's blue, right? How do we know that it's going to rain today? It's not because, or how it's going to rain tomorrow. It's not because somebody is doing 50-50, tossing a coin. No. It's because they've been able to predict that over the years, whenever the temperature is like this, whenever the humidity is like this, whenever the value of this is like this, there's a social percentage of possibility of the rain. And then when that prediction is made, when eventually the day comes or the event comes and it happens in a particular way, it is compared to the prediction to know what variables to change to be able to predict better. Okay? Let me give you an example for those of us that do sports. Let me give you an example. There's a prediction that, or you can even do the prediction, that there's a likely chance for Barcelona to score a goal when Messi is in the field than when he's not in the field. Now, what informed this your decision? Of course, it's because of years of watching their matches, right? Years of knowing how they play. Years of knowing how Messi can play. And then when you now put into consideration the team they are playing, how good the defense is, how this is that, how all the data presented helps in the prediction. Okay? Now, when that day comes and that match is played, then you understand that, okay, Messi did not score today because of what? And then you factor in that variable into your own algorithm. Okay, that's what leads to a more perfect prediction. There is no 100%. It is a prediction after all. But because of the more data it can analyze, it can learn from previous events and then predict future events, and as well compare predictions versus the actual events. So this is what leads to a better prediction. Okay, I hope I've been able to answer your question, Ali Muhyiddin. Okay, so let's round up. We're supposed to it's remaining like 3 slides, so if you can pardon me, let's finish up with the 3 slides and then we can call it a day. A part of the machine learning application, how it has been applied to IoT, is experience to individuals. I'm sure you understand that if you use Netflix very well, you see it tell you show you a different kind of movie from what it will show another person. It's because it sees the kind of movie you are choosing. For someone who watches local movies like Nigerian Nollywood movies, it gives you Nollywood movies. It does that by prediction, and then it takes the data from what you have done before. Okay, that's the shaping experiences to individuals. The Next thermostat, the example here says the Next thermostat has been able to use the information it receives from your daily settings for temperature to know when to give you high temperature, when to give you low temperature, and so on and so forth. The last part of our class today is the UI and UX, the user interface and user experience. Okay, for a given IoT system, there needs to be a way, or there needs to interact with the system, not just the system doing everything. There are times that people want to interfere with the system or interact with the system, and that's where the user interface comes in. The UI stands for user interface. It's a means by which a user and a computer can interact. Okay, a GUI started. It's Apple that first brought that idea. Everything was programming until Apple decided to build a graphic user interface with the introduction of the software called Lisa, the operating system called Lisa. Okay, now talking about the mobile platform, there are three distinctions of the user interface. You have native apps, you have web apps, and you have hybrid. The native app is those apps that you install on the phone. That's what we refer to as native apps. You install them on the phone. It has more direct access to the phone's capability. The next one there says web apps. They are those apps you access via the web, like a website. So you access it via a URL. Those are web apps. They usually don't have as much control over phones as a native app. Just like a browser-based app will not have so much power control over a laptop compared to the software installed on that laptop. And then the last version of it there is the hybrid. As the name implies, it takes both of them. It brings both of them. Okay, so you still have to download the app, right? But it accesses it via a browser. So this can be a good option if you know you'll be creating the native apps later on, but then you want to be able to use one of the reasons why web apps became very popular is because you don't care about the platform. Meaning, when I'm creating a web app, I don't care if it's a Windows or an Android or an iOS. I worry just about the browsers that would access my web app, compared to someone who's building native apps. You have to build the one for iOS, build the one for Android, and so on and so forth. So those are the things we consider. Those are the distinctions for the mobile interface. And then beyond mobile apps, it is not just mobile apps that we talk about. Beyond mobile apps, beyond desktop applications, you can have applications that are directly embedded in or are directly embedded in our systems, on the environment, like the Nest thermostat. That's what you're seeing there. The picture on the left is the entire thermostat. There the sensor is there, there the user interface is there. So you still have the user interface. Okay, the Nest thermostat is controlled by touch, and it will display you with relevant data that you need, and it's connected to the internet as well. So it gives you everything you need. Now moving on from UI to UX, the user experience, that's what US is any interaction a user has with a product. I hope you understand the difference. The UI is giving you ability to interact with the software or with the sensor or with the program, with IoT, while UX is your entire experience from the day you bought that sensor, from the day you bought that device to the day you throw away that device. The entire thing is the user experience. All aspect of the end user's interaction with the company, its services and its product. That's what your user experience is about. And the key considerations for the UI and the UX is when the time you want to build such things, or you want to build your sensor, you want to build your user interface, these are the things that you have to consider. Who are the users? You have to build based on the users. What alerts and notifications would they prefer or would they use? Would they be able to do do they prefer a responsive UI when you open it with an app or open it with a tab or a phone? Are they comfortable using the different versions, or they prefer one version fits all? I am sure I am not the only one who has a problem with these telecom companies sending me push messages. I'm not the only one. Now, those are the kind of things you consider when building systems. Because if not for the fact that we are stuck with them, if there's a particular company that says, well, we'll never send you push messages, people would have jumped to them already. Okay, so all these things are the things you consider. Okay, so I've come to the end of this class. Oh, sorry that it took longer than usual with the network error and network problems that we had. Questions, please. Do you have questions based on what we've talked so far? I know I was a bit fast today because I wanted to cover up. I really want to meet up with everything I scheduled to talk about today. I talked about cloud computing, definition of cloud, the environment itself, IoT and the cloud environment and the platform. I talked about the functions. I talked about when to consider an IoT platform. We went ahead to mention data analytics versus machine learning. And then we finish up with user interface and user experience, the UI and UX. Okay. Samuel said he joined late. Apologize for that network issue. Yeah, hello. Yes. Yes, I'm rounding up now. I'm rounding up now. Okay, that's our PMO calling in to check in on us. Thank you very much for the class today. Samuel, I'm sending the slides immediately as well so that you can browse through the slides and then see the things you want to see. Okay. As time goes on, when I'm able to upload the videos online, I'll upload the videos and share with us to use. I'm pasting my assessment directly right now on the WhatsApp platform. Okay. You mustn't do this in a hurry, but try and achieve it today. If you cannot achieve it today, unfailingly tomorrow. This is the final assessment. Okay, so that we can start preparing for our physical class. We have a lot to do for our physical class. Olawande on WhatsApp is posting the problem he's having. Whenever you have that problem, I prefer you use the in private browsing, meaning you open a private browser so that all the cache from your other browser is turned off, or go to your command prompt and do ipconfig/flush DNS. This will help you remove everything that your DNS server is holding. Thank you very much. I apologize once again for the disruption in our class. I'll provide you with that information after our facilitators meeting today, but be prepared for the 30th of this month to the 4th of next month. As from that time, we should be preparing for our physical class. Remember that you must come ready to learn. Those of us using Android phones, you have to come to the venue thinking about how to bring in a computer, because you can't learn everything by just listening. You have to be able to practice as well. Okay, thank you so much for sticking with me today. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. Adebasin has a question. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to provide you with that information after our facilitators meeting with the PMO today. So after the meeting today, I should have better information for you. Okay, the location says IoT Lagos, so definitely it will be in Lagos, but I don't know where in Lagos. So when I get that information, I'll give you the feedback. All right, Jude says he's looking forward to the physical class. I'm looking forward to the physical class as well, because there's a lot of practicals we need to do. There are a lot of technology I need to introduce us into. So I'm looking forward to that class as well. So thank you very much once again. I'll have to take my leave now. So please attempt my assessment, and then your attendance as well counts for you. So don't think that people who have not been attending the class will wake up one morning and then do all my assessments and come out top 2 or top 3 and get the prize. No, my assessments are also included in my attendance. That's why I said when you get a chance, do the assessment today. If you don't get a chance today, you can do it tomorrow, and then we move forward. It doesn't end our classes. It just means that we'll stop doing this kind of assessment. The only thing we'll be doing now is questions in class, questions and answers in class. Okay? So thank you very much. I apologize once again for the network problems. See you in our next class. Have a lovely weekend.